Hi there, my name is Rodney Stair and I'm with Tri-Cities Community Television, and I'm here today in the beautiful Leigh Square in Port Coquitlam with Roger Lubert, the President of the Regional Arts Council. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
So can you tell me a bit about your involvement with the Regional Arts Council and the Riverview Lands?
Well, first of all, the Arts Council itself has a very long history here, 45 plus years. And in our case, we have a very strong interest in Riverview as of the last 3 years. So we've integrated our whole organization into the experience of Riverview from an arts and cultural perspective.
Wonderful, because I know that the Riverview Lands is quite a complex and diverse. I know there's an arborarium, there are different facilities. So do you plan to be involved with future development in the sense that if they do open up a mental health or just general mental health complex, will you be involved with the artwork? Or how will this relationship look like?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think because of the process so far, and you're probably aware of the political nature of the site itself, and how each of the layers of government has approached the question of Riverview. So if we take the province itself, which has, as it knew it was closing down, this specific site went through a planning process years ago. But years went on because by then the actual hospital itself had not been closed. This is a provincial hospital, right? It's an institution, which served the whole province. And it went through a very interesting next step when now another kick at the can, as the hospital itself got closed down. So I think it's about 2012 on its 100th anniversary. All of a sudden Riverview Lands now is becoming closer to what might happen with it now a second time around. Meanwhile though, and I'm very proud of this, the city of Coquitlam took on a very interesting position. It grew into, through various administrations, taking a position on Riverview. So it wanted to see previous administrations, they formed a task force, for instance. We were part of that founding task force, Arts Connect, as a regional arts council. And so we got into the visioning, the dreaming of what might be there, right? Now that everybody knew it was going to close. And as it went forward, the notion of how the province, through its visioning process, and then how the city of Coquitlam, there's where the political layers come into the picture, right? Because the city of Coquitlam, it took a position on Riverview that said, we want to see this remain. We want to see this be a mental health services with its legacy, that it continues what it was there and that it serves the greater public and the greater interest. So obviously you're going to have, as you can see, conflicting visions of Riverview that's going to emerge.
Yeah. I know that there was quite a conflicting view between the municipality and the province, because I think the province wanted it to be a complex that was revenue neutral. So they were planning to open up bring in a lot of market housing. So how do you feel that as the president of Arts Connect, the regional representation, how does your vision differ from that or similar to that of the city versus that of the province?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. And I think that the visioning process so far, and from our perspective, so let me pull back. 3 years ago, what we did, having had our 45 years of history plus in this region, and being that, and I like to say it, and anybody who's ever heard me say it will remember, that we were gardeners planting seeds, right, in the art and cultural sense of this region, and we have all the years to prove it, and we have an archives to die for, which would show the interactions we've had with the various cities and the municipalities in this here region. And let's be clear about what we mean by this region, right, and Tri-Cities, quote unquote. And I kind of cringe at that name because really there's 5 municipalities in this region, takes in 2 beautiful villages that are incorporated, and more in Balcarra, and of course the 3 cities. So just to get into your question, the very idea of the province and the city, and as they kind of like, are kind of tug and pull about where might go Riverview, and if I got your question right, you're wondering, how does Arts Connect position itself vis-a-vis the dreams and visions there? So what we did is through some workshops, strategic planning workshops, came up with 4 key words. And they're very much the driving force for us, right? And it's regional, cultural, iconic, landmark. That's how we see it. We see it that it's a provincial iconic landmark. We actually see it as an iconic national landmark. So the way we've engaged in it is this. We've decided, okay, what role could we play in this? So last year, well, 2 years ago, we launched a process which ends up being called now, referred to as the Pendulum Gallery Project. And our driving theme was, and is to this day, because it's a living exhibit, Riverview, 2 little periods there, our iconic landscape. And that's been our driving force for us in terms of engaging the creatives of this region, which has now happened. Some beautiful, beautiful consequences of this. I'll just identify one that I call the Rubicon Art Project. 27 artists engaged themselves into getting a handle on the challenge we posed to them, because here was the condition of any artist that was going to be part of this exhibit. We told them, we said, you need to go to Riverview, make some sense of it from your own artistic background and your own medium. Then go to the Pendulum Gallery downtown, and if you've never seen this gallery, you'll understand why we picked it. We paid for the privilege of being there $2,300, and we're going to be there 3 weeks. And basically, so we set in motion this idea and this engagement at the very local level, and to the creatives to come and give this other reflection and vision and dreams about Riverview. So that's been the way we've approached it, and we are still approaching it.
I think that's wonderful, because I think oftentimes we undervalue the role of art, especially in its role in mental health, because oftentimes I find it's very integral to healing, oftentimes can be very cathartic, but also in the planning, because oftentimes when we do develop, whether it be like residences or mental health complexes, we forget that these places should also be livable, and so we need an artist's eye. So
very much so.
Yeah. And
no, I really appreciate that reflection, because you're absolutely right. My own engagement in the whole field of arts and culture was because it's this other way to look at the world around us, right? And so the stakeholders around the table, by the way, so we sat for years on the Riverview Lands Advisory Committee of the City of Coquitlam, right? And so around the table you had all the various stakeholders, including ourselves, but we were relatively quiet for quite a bit of years. We just looked and saw the visioning would be that somewheres in there the innovation, the creative side would be needed. So we saw initially, even in the initial visioning through the task force at the time, we actually saw that there would be a need for one of these, kind of a regional arts center within the complex of this place to serve mental health. So we were dovetailing ourselves into the Coquitlam experience of saying, you know, they were saying they want a campus of wellness. So the Arboretum, of course, we know the tree people, beautiful kudos to them, the Riverview Horticultural Center Society, another great stakeholder around the table. And actually we owe most that we're still talking about Riverview because, and we can even name some of them that are still to this day around, the Gillespies, Norma, you know. And what you have is basically everyone's done their part to bring the issue of Riverview to the largest and the most comprehensive conversation you'll be able to find. So we feel now that we're going to enter the conversation in very much the thing you're talking about. And as we go forward, we will be doing a series. We want to focus heavily on Riverview, and so look forward, anyone, to the coming segments that we're going to do on Riverview, because we've got a fantastic documentary approach to what we did downtown at the Pendulum Gallery. We've documented every step of the way, including Art Focus's great contribution with these tower, you know, movable tower, Rubicon Art, fantastic 27 artists that proposed to us this one piece. And it's become the gem of the project. It's rotating around right now. It's been at the Coquitlam Public Library for 6 weeks. It now sits in the second floor of the Port Coquitlam City Hall, and it's got many more lives to live as we go into phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Our whole idea is we want this exhibit to go around the province. And the city of Coquitlam right now, we're negotiating how to bring the full exhibit to their city hall. And actually the city itself council has given green light to the staff to literally begin this negotiation between our organization and themselves. So some really great, exciting things happening.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for coming
having
on
me.
today.
Thank you.
It's Cathy Chenna here with Tri-Cities Community TV, and I am in the beautiful Elise Square in Port Coquitlam. Today's guest is Rhea Rose, and she's going to talk to us about writing and what inspires her, as well as what are some of your influences. What type of writing do you do, Rhea?
Well, Cathy, I write lots of things, but where I've had my most publishing success is in speculative fiction. I also write poetry, but speculative fiction, short story writing is my area. And speculative fiction covers many things. So I write science fiction, I write fantasy, I write horror, and then I write anything else in between, steampunk, whatever area might come up and be popular at the moment in terms of speculative fiction. I generally try to write a story for it and place it somewhere.
So are there trends that happen that you sort of know, or is it something that just pops in and you have this idea in the middle of the night and you write yourself a note and think, I need to carry on that thread? Tell me what happens.
Actually, it works both ways. So quite often I'll get an idea for a story and I will write out a first or second draft, and I might not find a place to place it right away, so I'll just file it away.
Right.
And then I will see a market. I'm on many lists of people who are looking for stories to place, often themed anthologies.
Okay.
And for example, there was a steampunk themed anthology. You had to be Canadian, it had to be set in Canada. So of course, I never wrote a story specifically set in Canada or specifically steampunk, but when I saw their guidelines, I thought, I have a story that might work. And so I go back, pull out that story, and then I rework it a little bit to try and make it fit for what they're looking for.
It's like you're going into your archives, because you started it, you not quite finished it, but there could be a place for it down the road, and in this particular time you found a niche for it, and you reconfigure, and then you go ahead and go with it, and then you submit. Is that what happens?
That's exactly what happens. That's right. So we kind of create the fabric, and then maybe somebody says we want blue, so we go back and re-dye it and send it out, and hope that it hits what they're looking for. More often, it doesn't, and of course you get rejected, but you just hang on to it, and then you wait for the next, and then you rework it again to see if you can make it fit the next one.
And with writing, it's like a sport, really. You have to keep writing, you have to keep on knowing what the latest and greatest things are. Like if you want to play baseball and you want to be the top of your game, you have to play it day in and day out. You have to breathe it, you have to eat it, you have to live it, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's exactly something that sounds like that's coming out, that's what you do. And so do you write for a living as well?
It's really difficult in our country to write for a living. As far as I know, there's just lately with the new indie publishing and everything coming up, more people are able to make a little bit of a living. There is one big name Canadian writer, Robert J. Sawyer, who lives back east, who has been writing for a living. Right now, I write for the love of it. I love to get paid for it. So of course, when I'm looking for a market, there are professional rates. So I try to send only to professional rates markets. But in order to be able to write, I have a day job.
Yeah. Exactly. That fuels what you're passionate about.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. And so, are you mentoring people right now?
I do mentor people. I don't mentor people individually. I am a teacher, and so I do writing with my students. But in terms of my speculative fiction, I have belonged to the Vancouver Science Fiction Society for many, many years, and I've organized their workshops, and I have sort of touched the lives, and they've touched my lives, of many writers who've come into the workshop and want to be speculative fiction writers, and some of them are now successes on their own, and they're out there writing. So in that sense, I do mentor in the summer. This summer I'm going to go to Calgary to When Words Collide, which is a huge writing gathering, sort of the equivalent of the Surrey Writers Gathering that happens once a year. And I will be doing Blue Pencil Cafe. And Blue Pencil Cafe is where writers just walk in off the street with their manuscript, put it down in front of you, and you start reading it, and you blue pencil it. This works, this works, this works, or this doesn't work.
Right.
And you have a conversation with them across the table.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. And it's exciting if you're a new writer too, to be able to get somebody who has some experience.
So it sounds like we talked about, you've been writing for a while. I'm sure you've learned the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh yeah.
So what's some advice that you would give new writers?
Well, actually, you kind of mentioned it. You kind of have to live writing. Writing is a little bit like a calling. If you're called to writing, you're going to do it anyway, no matter what, whether you get yourself self-published or whether you're just writing quietly for yourself. You have to really love it, because then when the down times come, when you get all those rejections after rejection after rejection, if you're sending out because you're trying to publish whatever, a short story or a novel or a script, because you love writing, because you eat it and breathe it, you're going to keep writing. So that's the first thing you have to do, is write, and then find other writers so you can live your life around what other writers are doing, and follow somebody's career. Figure out what they've done. This is what I do. I follow people's careers and I go, well, how did they do that?
Right.
And then I just research them and I go, oh, they did this, they did this, they did that, and I follow what they do, and that's been successful.
And are you in a writing group right now?
I am in a writing group right now. I've been in one particular writing group for over 20 years. I'm actually in several writing groups, but the one I'm in right now is for novel writing, because that's what I want to get into.
That's your next step,
That's
your next chapter, so to speak.
My next
right?
chapter, that's
Yes.
right.
Where can people find out more information about you?
Well, they can Google me. I'm on the internet. I have a website.
Yes.
And I have books out at Amazon, like stories out at Amazon and at Smashwords. Some are actually up there for free, because I want people to be able to read my stuff and make a decision as to whether or not it's something they want to pay a little bit of money for.
Right.
So I am all over the internet.
What's your website, Rhea?
It's www.rhearose.weebly.com. So it's a Weebly website. Make it yourself.
Yes.
So I love to keep my finger in the creative process.
Exactly.
So that's where they can find me, and I'll be at VCon this year in October. So if anyone's interested in coming to the workshop, I will be one of the pros in the workshop looking at your work.
Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
I just want to say that I do have a short story coming up in a publication called Pulp Literature, which is put out by 3 editors who live in Victoria. So if anyone's looking for a short story there, Pulp Literature, you can Google that too, and you'll find them. They're a great publication.
That sounds fantastic. I really appreciate you being with us today, and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you, Cathy.
Hi, I'm Keisha Mystery with Tri-City Community TV, and today we are here with Ian. Ian is a musician. Can you tell us how your musical career got started?
Hi, yeah, I started pretty early. I joined I'm originally from the UK. I lived in a city called Coventry, and I joined the Coventry Cathedral Choir when I was 7 years old. So they taught me how to sing classically, and they taught me you had to learn an instrument as part of that training. So I learned the piano, and so from 7 through to now I've been playing piano. It's
Very nice. And have you played in bands before then too as well?
Yeah, back in the UK, well, I guess when I was 18, I had a school band. We were pretty bad. There's lots of very nice classical music, and then some hints of distorted guitar and stuff, but it was pretty painful stuff.
What would you say would be one of your most favorite pieces?
Favorite pieces of music?
For you, at least. That you
Of mine or somebody else's?
Of yours.
I've got lots of other people's music I like. Last year I wrote a piece called The Thunderbird Suite. It's actually been recorded on video. Hopefully you guys will get a chance to show it. It's 3 pieces, and it's a tribute to the First Nations. Obviously, coming from the UK, I have very little experience with the First Nations, but over the past 13 years, some of my, I've encountered First Nations, and I basically, I guess it inspired me from a perspective of BC is such a beautiful country, and it's easy to imagine how it was before we came and settled here, the Europeans. So the first part was about how beautiful it must have been, untouched. That's called Arcadia. And then there's a middle piece called Grieve, which is, if you ever get a chance to go to the Victoria Museum, the First Nations display there is awesome. But when you're reading some of the tragedies that occurred during colonization and the smallpox epidemics, I guess that inspired the middle piece. It's pretty sad stuff. Also the sea of totem poles they've got there. You read the signs at the bottom, and it's this totem pole came from such and such a village, which was just empty because there was nobody left there, and it was pretty tragic stuff. The last piece is there's some quotes by Chief Dan George that fit it perfectly, but I haven't got his permission yet to use them. I'm working on that. Basically, it's about how the two races can work together, the First Nations and the Europeans, and how they can merge and become stronger because of it. So that was kind of like a hope for the future kind of a piece. But I was pretty pleased with that. I think, and being able to play on this Yamaha is beautiful. I know we're here to represent the community piano program, and yeah, it's a beautiful instrument, and the fact that it's been gifted and people are able to come and use it. I've used it a couple of times here. I played a couple of performances. Once was just solo, and then the other performance was with International Blindfold. We came and did an acoustic set just here. But I've also come and played acoustic guitar here as well. They have a charity called the Crossroads Hospice, and I believe it's every second. Check out Crossroads Hospice. I can't remember the exact timetable, but I think it's a couple of times a month on Friday nights, and they have a great venue here. This is actually perfect. This round studio that we're in, the acoustics. If you're sitting on the back there, you can hear a pin drop down there. It's beautifully made. So.
Okay, and if people want to learn more about you and hear more of your music, where can they go?
I've got a site on Reverb Nation. I've got a site on Facebook, so it's Ian Dowdle, so Ian.Dowdle. I think it's reverbnation.com/Ian Dowdle or something like that. But if you go on Reverb Nation and type in my name, you'll find me.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
It's been great hearing about your journey in music. I'm Keisha Mistray, and this is Tri-City Community TV.